Let me ask you something raw, real, and straight to the heart. Have you ever looked at your phone, typed "I miss you" to someone you loved, and then you see, most people don't understand how powerful three little words can be when they're not thrown away but crafted with purpose. This is not about begging. This is not about pleasing. This is about tapping into the one thing even the most emotionally distant people can't ignore: authentic, emotional resonance. So if you're ready to stop chasing and start connecting, let's break this wide open. Avoidant exes often leave us feeling confused, abandoned, and questioning our own worth. But the truth is, their behavior is rarely about us. It's about their relationship with vulnerability. At the core of an avoidant psyche is not the fear of rejection, as many assume, but the fear of losing control through emotional exposure. Vulnerability is a battlefield for them. When they start to feel emotions rising, especially deep ones like love or longing, their inner defense system kicks in. They shut down, retreat, and emotionally dissociate, not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much and don't know how to manage it. This is crucial to understand if you're thinking about reaching out with something as emotionally loaded as "I miss you." When you send a message to an avoidant that reeks of neediness, urgency, or fear, you're not calming their internal alarm, you're triggering it. They associate closeness with the loss of their sense of self or freedom, so when they sense you're trying to pull them in emotionally, they recoil, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. The intention behind your "I miss you" becomes more important than the words themselves. If it feels like a trap, they'll run. If it feels like a weight, they'll drop it. But if it feels like a sincere expression from someone who is emotionally grounded and not seeking to control or change them, they may actually pause, soften, and even listen. Avoidants deep down do crave connection. They just fear being overwhelmed by it. So the power of your message lies in your emotional clarity. When you say "I miss you," are you hoping they'll miss you back? Are you secretly expecting them to return, apologize, or break down? If so, the energy you're projecting isn't clean, it's conditional. And that's exactly the kind of emotional experience that makes an avoidant run for the hills. Instead, imagine speaking to them with no agenda, just a quiet, powerful truth. You miss them. That's it. You're not asking for anything. You're not needing anything. You're just acknowledging a feeling. And that level of self-possession is something an avoidance system doesn't know how to resist. Because here's the paradox. The moment you remove pressure from the message, the moment you remove the need to convince, you actually become more convincing. Why? Because now you're showing them something they rarely see. Emotional truth without emotional chaos. You're demonstrating that closeness doesn't have to come with strings, that love doesn't have to hurt, that "I miss you" can simply mean I remember something beautiful and I'm not afraid to feel it. That, for an avoidant, is rare, and rare things get noticed. Emotion without pressure is one of the most magnetic forces in human communication, especially when dealing with an avoidant ex. Most people misunderstand the nature of vulnerability. They either suppress it entirely, becoming cold and distant, or they express it recklessly, dumping all their emotions into messages that read like a cry for help. But there's a third way, a powerful way, and that is to express emotion with grace with self-awareness, and with zero pressure attached to it. That's where real attraction happens. Not the desperate pull of someone clinging, but the grounded presence of someone who knows what they feel and isn't afraid to share it with calm dignity. Avoidant individuals are especially sensitive to pressure. The moment they feel that your "I miss you" is meant to pull them back into something they're not ready for, or worse, something that feels like emotional suffocation, they detach. It's not personal, even if it feels that way. Their nervous system is wired to interpret emotional intensity as danger. So when you say "I miss you," if it's laced with anxiety, urgency, or a hidden plea for response, they'll sense it instantly. That kind of emotion activates their walls, not their heart. But when you can say it without pressure, when your message carries emotional clarity instead of emotional weight, everything changes. "I miss you" becomes a quiet, confident reflection of your humanity, not a demand, not a strategy. It becomes a message they can actually receive because it doesn't require anything of them. You're not asking them to come back. You're not asking them to respond. You're simply sharing what's true for you. And that truth, delivered without expectation, cuts through fear like sunlight through fog. There is incredible emotional intelligence in being able to feel deeply and yet not attach your worth to the outcome. When you send a message from that place, where you are open-hearted but not open-wounded, it holds gravity. It commands respect. Avoidants are used to emotional chaos, to people reacting and overreacting, but when you calmly state, "I miss you," and leave space for nothing more, you disrupt the pattern. You introduce something unfamiliar: safety. And make no mistake, safety is seductive. In the world of emotionally avoidant individuals, your calm is louder than your words. Your lack of pressure is your leverage. Your ability to hold space for your own feelings without needing them to respond is what makes your message memorable. Because when you don't chase, you give them something to miss. And that's when the game truly shifts. Timing and tone are not just accessories to communication, they are everything. You could say the most beautiful, heartfelt, and sincere words, but if they're delivered at the wrong moment or with the wrong energy, they'll fall flat or worse, trigger the opposite response. With an avoidant X, this is especially crucial. Avoidants live in a world where emotional timing is survival. When emotions feel too intense or come at a moment when they're not emotionally regulated, they shut down. So the moment you say, "I miss you," matters just as much as the words themselves. Say it too soon, say it in the heat of your own emotional unraveling, and you might as well have said nothing at all. But say it after giving them space, after allowing their nervous system to settle, and it can land like a breath of air they didn't even know they were starving for. Avoidants are time-sensitive in ways most people don't realize. When they pull back, it's not necessarily forever, but it is a retreat. It's their way of regaining a sense of internal control. If you reach out during that retreat with emotionally loaded words, it won't feel like connection. They need time for their defenses to lower naturally, and if you respect that timeline, you become someone they feel safe around instead of someone they feel they must escape from. Tone plays an equally vital role. The emotional frequency behind your words either invites or overwhelms. "I miss you," said with heavy sadness, urgency, or frustration, often communicates more than longing. It sends a message of lack, of incompleteness, of expectation. To an avoidant, that's emotionally expensive. It feels like an obligation waiting to explode. But when that same phrase is said with softness, stillness, and acceptance. It becomes something entirely different, is reflection of your emotional maturity, not a bid for emotional rescue. Avoidants are not cold-hearted, they're self-protective. And when your tone signals calm instead of chaos, curiosity instead of control, it disarms them. So instead of rushing into the moment where you can finally say what you feel, wait. Wait for the time when the emotional waters have calmed. Wait until you're not sending the message for your own relief, but because it's simply true. And when you say it as if it's okay whether they reply or not. That kind of timing, that kind of tone, that's what echoes in their silence long after the message is read. Saying, "I miss you," without giving it context, is like showing someone a single puzzle piece and expecting them to see the full picture. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, vague or open-ended emotional statements are easy to deflect or dismiss. They don't tend to dwell in feelings the way someone with an anxious or secure attachment might. Instead, they compartmentalize, detach, and move forward as a defense mechanism. So when you drop a generic "I miss you" on them, they can categorize it as emotion they don't need to deal with. It's just noise to them. But when you give that phrase meaning, when you paint a picture with it, that's when you reach past their defenses and into their memory, their heart, their humanity. Avoidants don't often trust feelings, but they do remember moments. If you can say, "I miss you," and then share a specific memory, something real, something tangible, you're not just expressing emotion, you're reminding them of shared experience. For example, instead of writing "I miss you," say, "I miss the way you used to quietly hum to yourself while making coffee. I never told you, but it made the mornings feel softer." That's a moment. That's an image. That's a feeling they can remember, too. It becomes less about you needing them and more about the emotional reality of what was once shared. And that's powerful. Avoidant individuals are often flooded by abstract emotions. They don't know how to respond to "I'm heartbroken" or "I can't stop thinking about you," but they can feel the memory of that road trip when you both sang off-key to your favorite song, or that moment they looked at you and you just knew without words that there was something real between you. When you anchor "I miss you" to those kinds of specific emotional memories, you're making it easier for their guarded hearts to recognize the truth in what you're saying. More importantly, you're shifting the message from being about what you want from them to being about what you shared. That reframing softens the impact. It removes the weight of expectation and replaces it with the warmth of nostalgia. And nostalgia, when it's gentle and honest, is a backdoor into the avoidant heart. It doesn't demand anything, it just reminds them. And sometimes that soft reminder does more than any loud declaration could ever accomplish. The energy behind your words is more powerful than the words themselves. You could write the most beautiful, poetic, heart-centered message saying "I miss you," but if the energy behind it is desperate, clinging, or emotionally unstable, it will repel an avoidant X instead of drawing them in. Why? Because people don't respond to language alone. They respond to frequency. And avoidants, more than most, are hypersensitive to emotional undercurrents. They may not always be in tune with their own emotions, but they are highly reactive to the emotional temperature of others. If you're carrying the energy of fear, anxiety, or unresolved pain when you reach out, even if your message is soft on the surface, that underlying charge will be felt and avoided. This is why it's not just about what you say, but who you are when you say it. Have you grounded yourself emotionally? Are you reaching out from a place of peace or a place of emotional volatility? An avoidant is much more likely to respond to someone who feels emotionally sovereign, someone who isn't looking to be saved, validated, or fixed. They gravitate toward people who are steady, calm, and non-threatening. If your "I miss you" is delivered with emotional pressure, if it comes with an unspoken "please respond, please come back, please make me feel better," their inner alarms will go off. But if it comes with the energy of "I am whole, and I'm simply expressing what's true for me," it bypasses those alarms and sinks in. People with avoidant tendencies often lack models of emotional safety. When you bring that safety, not just in your words, but in your energy, you show them a new experience. You show them that love doesn't always have to be intense, chaotic, or needy, that it can be soft, grounded, and expecting nothing in return. That alone can be a profound shift. Your energy teaches them how to feel safe again, without demanding they fix or fulfill you. That's why emotional alignment is essential before you reach out. If you haven't processed your pain, if you're secretly hoping your message will pull them back or make them feel guilty, then your energy will carry all of that, even if the message is simple. But if you've done the inner work, if you've accepted the possibility of no response, and you still choose to share your truth, that authenticity is magnetic. Your peace becomes your power. Your balance becomes your message. You don't have to push them. You just have to show them a version of love that doesn't hurt. And when you do that, not with your words, but with your energy, they notice. Even if they don't reply right away, they feel it. And they remember it. When it comes to convincing an avoidant ex of your sincerity, most people focus only on what they want to say, not how or why it should be said. But the truth is, a powerful I miss you isn't about longing or regret. It's about emotional clarity, timing, presence, and energy. The avoidant person is not your enemy. They are someone who has learned, often through pain, that emotional closeness feels threatening. When you approach them with desperation or emotional weight, you only confirm their fear that love equals pressure. But when you approach them from a place of calm, inner truth, without expectation or urgency, you disrupt their pattern. You show them something different, something safe, something authentic, something real. The mistake most people make is thinking that missing someone gives them the right to unload emotion without accountability. But the most compelling message doesn't come from emotional chaos. It comes from emotional alignment. If you can hold your longing gently, express it without clinging, and respect their emotional boundaries in the process, you become a voice of steadiness in the storm they fear. That steadiness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's a sign of growth. And to someone who has spent most of their life avoiding emotional intensity, it becomes a rare form of connection that doesn't require them to run. Each key in this speech reveals a deeper truth about how to reconnect with an avoidant ex through emotional intelligence, not emotional reaction. Understanding their fear of vulnerability, expressing emotion without pressure, mastering the timing and tone of your message, tying your words to shared emotional memories, and above all, carrying the right emotional energy. These are not tricks. These are tools of transformation. They allow you to communicate from your highest self rather than your wounded self. They give your words weight, not because they demand a reaction, but because they don't. And that freedom you create in your message, freedom from pressure, freedom from need, is what creates space for real connection to re-emerge. In the end, I miss you is not a strategy. It's a statement, a declaration of feeling that can either come from fear or from love. When it comes from love, not a needy, possessive kind, but a grounded, generous kind, it has the power to reach even the most emotionally distant hearts. You may not be able to control how your ex receives your words, but you can control the integrity behind them. And when your words are honest, respectful, and rooted in emotional strength, they don't just echo in their mind for a moment. They leave an imprint that lingers. That's the true power of a meaningful I miss you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this message. If this speech brought you clarity, healing, or even just a moment of self-reflection, then its purpose has been fulfilled. Remember, the power of communication, especially with someone who struggles to feel safe emotionally, lies not in how loudly you speak, but in how deeply you understand. Your growth, your emotional maturity, and your courage to express love without pressure is what sets you apart. You have everything it takes to rise above reaction and embody real connection, even if it's from a distance. Every time you choose calm over chaos, self-respect over desperation, you honor your own heart. And that energy, not just your words, is what speaks loudest to the ones who fear closeness the most. If this message resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who needs it. And don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe if you'd like more insight on emotionally complex relationships, healing, and self-empowerment. Until next time, take care of your heart, honor your journey, and never forget, your calm presence is your greatest power. Thank you, and goodbye.